Hey, I'm Jason Wilkins. We are here inside WNXP Sonic Cathedral with the woman on the internet, Orla Gartland, in real life.
Hey, I know. I'm not on the internet anymore.
You are not. It is very nice to see you. You were someone whose music we started listening to still during lockdown. And when we very first started this station, I remember in January 2021, I was checking out different music as we're getting everything going, and I heard this song called More Like You and was just blown away. It was one of my favorite pop songs, still is, of like the last 10 years, and all true things. But I came into it in a completely different way than a lot of people came into your music. I was unaware of your YouTube past.
Yes.
It was just purely, this is a cool song. Who is this person? And her name is Orla. Great. But I wonder for you, is it almost like two careers in a way? Because looking back, there were the people who came on board, followed you on YouTube. You were at one point one of the most influential teenagers in Ireland, if I read correctly.
Wow.
and now you have this thing that's, I assume, connected to, but almost separate in a way.
Yeah, I think the way I think about it is everyone comes from somewhere, and it just so happens that my in the garage rehearsal years just happen to be online. That's kind of how I think about it. I think it's not quite like two different people, and I'm really, I don't know, I'm proud of that past. I don't deny it, but I think I've gotten better since then. I take it all a bit more seriously since then, I guess. But I kind of like looking back and being able to chart my progress and being like, oh, it's so cool. I wrote about this when I was 16, and then at 18 I was writing about this. So yeah, it's almost like just having your development years that are so often done behind the scenes just be a bit more public, and I quite like that.
Yeah. Well, you named your record in 2021 "Woman on the Internet," appropriately enough, and you said for that record that it was written around a character, an idea, that it wasn't just strictly the perspective of Orla Gartland. You have a new record. Is it a similar theme? Do you have a separate character, or is this you?
I think this one is a little bit more me. I think I've been more up for that this time. This newer album is all about a relationship. It's all about one relationship, viewing it from different angles and celebrating that you can kind of feel a multitude of feelings about the same person and about the same thing. I find a lot of pop music to be sort of, I don't know, a little bit too black and white in its meaning for me sometimes, straight up love songs or straight up breakup songs. But my experience of life is just not that straightforward. I feel like feelings are more complex and tangled than that. And so I wanted to, in this record, I suppose, concept wise, rein it in, but sonically push it outwards. So have quite a specific brief or thread between the songs. And I think that gave me more scope for the production and the writing to go, I don't know, to level up a bit or to just commit to itself a bit more.
Yeah. Well, you do hear the sonic expansion in it. It's called "Everyone Needs a Hero." Is there a hero you had in mind when putting that together, or is that just more of a just statement of fact that everyone does need a hero?
Yep. I mean, there's a song that's the closing track, which is the title track of the album that was written quite close to the end of the process. Then I felt it just felt right as a title for some reason. But I was also writing about, I don't know, I find it interesting with writing. I feel like I find it fun to find the threads after the fact and not think too much about them. So I knew all the songs would be about a relationship, but title and visual wise, I just pushed that to the back of my mind. But I was thinking in parallel a lot about superheroes, not in the Marvel sense, but kind of tied in with womanhood and a lot of girls that I know, me included, this sort of urge to be everything and be everywhere and thriving in all areas, and this sort of manic pursuit of being the perfect friend but also a great partner and thriving in your job and just spinning all these plates. And I had just become really aware of that, and I liked the idea of this self-appointed hero and this person who is looking after everyone but them and just kind of running around and trying to get it all done. And so when I wrote the title track, it just felt right, and I liked the cockiness of it as well. I liked that it felt like I was also saying everybody needs a hero. Like, don't worry, guys, I'm here to play shows and save you all. And I kind of liked the...
You're the hero.
I kind of liked the cockiness, but really the song itself that the album is named after is not cocky at all. I think it's the most like humbling moment on the record. And it's kind of basically saying like, I know I do need you. I'm not above this. And I'm sorry that I've been kind of a dick in the other songs, but I really do need you.
Well, I love the visual accompaniment to it, and you do such a great job of visual storytelling with it. I was reading the story about why there was a goldfish in the bag, and I love that. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you about topically right now is that, you know, being based in the UK, there's a lot of artists who have been pretty outspoken about how difficult it is to come over and tour. Mm-hmm. And this is your first time, right, to tour the US that's coming up. And, you know, has that process been a struggle? Has it been something that's, you know, been fairly either difficult or intimidating or cost prohibitive to think about bringing your music over here?
Yeah, honestly, all of the above. And I find it interesting because I don't think it's, you know, a music fan's job to think too much about that in a way. But I obviously do think about it a lot. I talk about it with my friends who are also musicians, who are also artists. It's exceptionally expensive. On my first album cycle, I couldn't come over here and do this, I guess, for two reasons. One, it was still COVID time, so there was no like in-person promo, and I was sat on Zoom doing this, which is way less fun. But I also just couldn't afford it, to be quite honest. I just don't think I could. I had to save up for a long time and have a Patreon that I've ran for a couple of years, and I was funneling those funds away to save up for things like the visa. So it has been pretty long. I don't want to be too like nonchalant and chill about being here. It's like it's a big deal for me. It's a big bucket list thing that I've wanted for a long time. But yeah, it is really long, and it's a shame. I think it cuts off a lot of people in the same way as I'm sure is true of US artists heading over to Europe. But yeah, a lot of people I know would love to tour over here and just I can't afford it. So I'm definitely trying to be as present as possible being here this week and just like soak it all up. Yeah.
Well, anything, you know, obviously we're all about bringing you back full band at some point too into Nashville and having to show. One thing I found fascinating in reading a little bit about what you've done outside of your own work, you're obviously a great writer and incredible with pop hooks, so it wasn't too surprising to find out that you were included as a co-writer on a BTS song, the huge K-pop band.
Oh yeah, you've gone deep in the lore.
You know, when you're scrolling through and someone says Orla Gartland K-pop, I need to know like how that came about, and have you seen ripple effects? I mean, they have, you know, the BTS army have do they know who you are?
I know, that's a pretty good question. I think you'd have to ask them. I don't know. I did so I started a band a couple of years ago called Fizz with my best friends in London, and those guys have been my like inner circle of just friends in London. And in all the time I've lived there, it's like almost 10 years. And Martin, who's in Fizz, and we were writers on that song together, and we wrote it remotely in London. I think we like wrote it in his bedroom or mine. We were living together at the time, so sometimes we would, on like a day off, we just have a go at some like top lining, which is where you like pitch songs, and you know you're not necessarily meeting the artist. You're not like in the room with the writers. It's like you send in a top line you've written on top of a backing track, and you know, they sometimes assemble a song full of someone's verse and someone's chorus, and it's like it's a process that's like very different to me, and I haven't done a huge amount of it. I'd love to come back and do it like when I'm not doing this with you. But I found it like a really fun experience, and I think it was just a cool thing to watch. It's obviously like so different from doing this and watching like something that you've written get translated into Korean. I don't know, it's like completely different. And it just, those are the moments where I'm like, wow, there's so much you can do in music, you know. You can like produce for the people, you can write for the people, and yeah, that was me having like a small taste of that kind of thing, and I'd love to do more of it at some point. But yeah, it's at the moment it's like a fun fact, a party trick about me more than anything.
Well, this is Nashville, so you know, you start going down those roads and co-writing and things like that. There are opportunities. Speaking of Nashville, before we let you go, we always have to ask a Nashville question, and in this case, you've recently done a playlist for Dork Magazine that was chronicling in depth. I love it, by the way. The teenage music. There was a lot of references to, and now that's what I call music CD. But there was also a reference to Nashville's own Paramore, who we love, big heroes around here. And I wondered for you, as a teenager and then eventually as an artist, what did, kind of Haley and Company's music mean to you, and how did it impact kind of what you wanted to be?
Hugely. I actually tried to get an appointment at her hair salon when I was here. That's how much of a fan I am. But they had no appointments when I was here. But I was like, great. How cool would that be? But yeah, I think she and they are so timeless, and I respect any artist that can shapeshift in their sound boldly. And I feel like I don't love the word relevant, but I guess I do mean it, like staying fresh and exciting after doing it for as long as they have is such an achievement. And like, I feel like I, like many people, have loved them from like way back in the like pop punkier moment that they had, but then I also saw them at like the Eras tour like 2 weeks ago, and that came to London and they were still brilliant. And I just think that's so rare, to stay exciting and to stay cool and be always changing. That's very inspiring to me. So yeah, I think she's an incredible performer. They all are.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're just the best.
Paramore, indeed the best. We've learned many things, one of them being Paramore's the best. Orla Gartland, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.